There's a generation right now that everyone seems to misunderstand. People call them lazy, sensitive, addicted to their phones. But here's the thing nobody wants to talk about. Gen Z is the first generation in human history to grow up with the entire world's pain streaming directly into their brain before they even learned how to handle their own emotions. They didn't choose this reality. They were just born into it. And what looks like weakness? It's actually adaptation to a world that broke all the old rules. Gen Z, born between 1997 and 2012. This is the generation that learned about school shootings, climate disaster, and economic collapse before they even learned to drive. They grew up watching their parents work harder for less. They watched millennials drown in student debt and still get called entitled. They saw the whole rulebook their grandparents followed: work hard, buy a house, retire comfortably. They watched that completely fall apart. So they learned something early. The system isn't built for you anymore, and that's not rebellion. That's just pattern recognition working exactly how it's supposed to. Here's what's strange about Gen Z. They matured faster than any generation before them, but somehow they also stayed younger for longer. Emotionally, they grew up way too fast. By age 12, they were scrolling through wars, pandemics, political chaos, all on the same device they used to watch cartoons. So, yeah, they learned empathy early. They understood that the world is heavy and complicated and deeply unfair. But here's the catch. All those traditional markers of adulthood kept getting further out of reach. Can't afford to move out. Can't afford college without soul-crushing debt. Can't land those stable jobs their parents got. So, they're stuck in this weird psychological limbo, old enough to carry the weight of the world, but too young to actually control any of it. Now let's talk about something Gen Z does way better than any generation before them. They actually talk about their mental health. And older generations see this as weakness, but psychology sees it completely differently. Gen Z didn't invent anxiety or depression. They just stopped pretending it doesn't exist. Previous generations were taught to bury it, push through it. And sure, that worked for a while, until people hit 40 and realized they'd been carrying unprocessed trauma for decades. Gen Z said, you know what? No. If I'm struggling, I'm gonna say it. If I need help, I'm actually gonna ask for it. And that's not fragility, that's emotional intelligence. That takes more courage than silence ever did. And this is what really sets them apart. They just don't believe the lies anymore. They were told college means a good job. Work hard and you'll get rewarded. Just be patient. All lies. So they stopped waiting around and started building their own path instead. Side hustles, content creation, freelancing, choosing community over corporate ladders. People say they're anti-work, but that's not it. They're anti-exploitation. They're literally just asking for what older generations had and called normal: a living wage, affordable housing, a future that doesn't feel like constant survival mode. Their brains are wired differently from growing up online. Infinite content, infinite comparison, infinite noise. They're more creative and faster at processing information than anyone before them. But they're also burned out by 22, not because they're weak, but because the world they inherited literally never stops moving. So, let me tell you what Gen Z actually is. They're resilient, just not in a way that older generations know how to recognize. Their resilience doesn't look like silence or just pushing through. It looks like setting boundaries, walking away from jobs that treat them like they're disposable, choosing their mental health over a paycheck. And the world calls that soft, but it's not. It's wisdom. They figured out early that the old survival strategies don't work anymore, so they're creating new ones. The world keeps calling them soft for it, but check back in 20 years and see who had it right. So, here's my question for you. Are you Gen Z? And if you are, what's the one thing you wish older generations understood about you? And if you're not Gen Z, what's one thing about them that surprised you? Comment below.